I've alluded to it before. I think we've talked about it, not necessarily at length, but Sylvana Bertini, whom I played with on the national team, and she sort of predated me on the national team. I think she joined probably, I think she was a member of the 95 World Cup team, and even maybe before that, kind of unofficially. But when we played at Centennial Stadium as part of the CONCACAF qualifying tournament that the US was not a part of, and we ended up winning that, we played Puerto Rico, and I believe it might still be a world record, and we thrashed them. I mean, kind of embarrassingly, 21-0. And
Oh,
Cole Palmer, 4 goals in 20 minutes. Outstanding, unprecedented in the Premier League. But Sylvana scored 8 first half goals against Puerto Rico in 1998.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Okay, at what point does sportsmanship come into this? And the lack thereof. 8 first half goals, 21. I mean, listen, personally, and let me just stand firm here in my belief. I think it's bullshit when people say, oh, you should at this point take it easy on a team. I don't believe in that. You got to keep going. If the other team's bad, too bad. Sorry. Find a new job. That's my personal opinion. But there is that belief out there that is just poor gamesmanship, poor sportsmanship.
Well, so I went to Wikipedia, and I think this sort of confirms my memory of the event, but I was astounded that she did it all in the first half. And there were other goals as well in the first half. So I think easily was 15-0 probably after 45. I'm sure Richard Scott could probably fact check me on that. But she had 5 within the first 24. So it shows you, I think, how poor the opponent was. And you're still trying to build, right? I think we were playing every 2 days as part of that tournament. And then there was I think a pretty rudimentary at that point qualification process out, like for lower level or lower tiered teams out of CONCACAF to even just participate in the qualifying tournament. So Puerto Rico had moved through that, and then we're trying to build, and we had to win out to get into that. So there were 16 teams at the time as part of the Women's World Cup in 99. So as I said, the US was hosting. So we had to win. We knew we had to beat Mexico, and Mexico was always a contender. They were always a strong team, but we were kind of poised to win it. So you had to build to something. So yes, you want to take your foot off the gas. You don't want to humiliate an opponent, but you want everybody firing on all cylinders. You're trying to execute certain like a system and certain passages of play and things like that. So we probably got to a point where you're passing the ball around a ridiculous amount of times, and then you find yourself in front of goal. You're not going to pull Lorenzo Insigne and pass it out of like 8 yards away from goal and then go somewhere else. At that point, it's almost more embarrassing. And I think, I don't know, like laughable, like where you're kind of pointing the finger at the opponent and saying, well, I'm in front of goal and I'm going to choose to go backwards with it. At that point, if I'm the opponent, I think I'd prefer the team to score. And maybe I'm justifying it there a little bit too much, but they were not good. So I'm not saying it could have been worse, but you can only do so much at that point.
I think I agree with you. It's almost unsportsmanlike to go. It's like, hey, it's when you net hang in hockey and street hockey.
Yeah.
And you're standing, someone's really effed up, and you're standing at the side of the net with the ball, and you're waiting for someone to run back, and it's your friend. And then you just pop it in, right? Like 2 seconds before they get there. You're like, you suck on that, right?
Yeah, you're just mocking them, right?
Yes.
So it's just that fine line where you want to respect your opponent. You don't want to humiliate them. You don't want to make fun of them. So if you're in front of goal,
you keep it under 35 is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, I'm still not eligible to play in an under 35 league now, right? I'm in the under 50. No, but you're right. But I want to talk about Sylvana, because I think in the lore of women's national team and Canadian women's national team history, I feel like Sylvana's name kind of gets lost. It's obviously Christine Sinclair. It's obviously Charmaine Hooper. And like the Jerry Donnellys and players that came kind of before that I idolized. Like Sylvana was one of these kind of specimens that you played with who just seemed to have everything. She had a great touch. She had a great left foot. She was so strong. I think she's probably the strongest woman I ever played with. And I mean, I played with Charmaine as well. Like she could just bully players off the ball, but she could also had an extreme amount of pace. Like, she could just get by people, and she was also incredibly quick to turn, and understood the game, had a great kind of tactical acumen and great footy kind of IQ. So I don't think she really kind of gets her due. So, I mean, obviously she does, because she's still in the record books. I think Jordan Heidemann came close. She got 5 goals in, I think, CONCACAF qualifying a few years ago. But I think this one will stand for a long time, and I think Sylvana's name deserves to be in those record books, because she was a fabulous player.
Where were the opponents' heads at by the end of that match? I mean, were they laughing? Had they just conceded? Were they angry, embarrassed?
I think just resigned and embarrassed at that point. You know, there's probably a point midway through the first half, or during the first half, where it got a little bit chippy and a bit dangerous, and late tackles and things like that. The energy and the frustration coming out that way. But at the end, you're just, I think, even if they had subs, like players coming on, nobody was trying to prove anything at that point when you're losing 20-0, right?
Did you shake hands at the end of the match, or did they just storm off in a huff?
No. No, always the handshakes, always.